Joining us in the studio are two businessmen with contrasting views on the outlook for British economy. Remain campaigner Richard Reid of Innocent Smoothies and Leave campaigner Tim Martin of Wetherspoons. Good to see you both this morning. So you're both on the different side of the debate when it came to the EU. But let's start with you then, Tim. The price sort of standoff that we saw between Tesco and Unilever is firmly being put down to Brexit, and this is the result, and we're going to see more of this, that prices are going to go up because we've decided to leave the EU.
I think it's probably overplayed. Economists got it completely wrong about the outcome of the referendum, saying immediately you get price rises, mortgage rates would go up and so on. So it needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. I think what you had here was an opportunistic supplier doing its job, going along saying, I've got a great reason for putting prices up. And good old Tesco, who realised that Aldi and Lidl are around the corner, can't put its prices up to customers, so it said, well, the second word was off, and they seem to have reached an accommodation.
The first was buzz, clearly. We should make that clear. Yeah. So it's just an opportunity for Unilever to try and steam a little bit of money out of Tesco, and actually the economists have got it wrong, Richard.
Well, I guess we'll never know specifically about what happened with Tesco and Marmite, but I think these trading battles are a regular sort of part of business. But what is a fact is that the pound against the dollar is at the lowest point since the Second World War. So whether your feelings are that Brexit is having an effect on the economy or not is not really what it's about. The economic facts are starting to bear what we said was going to happen, that things are going to get more expensive. But we also have to point out, it hasn't actually happened yet. This is just the market reacting to the fact that the political discourse is that we're going to go for a hard, or I would say harmful, Brexit. And so the market's just starting to adjust to that. The bad things that could happen will happen when it happens. So you've got 2 years to sort of get a sense of where we're moving. So I would say 2 years is a long time. We should sit back, we should hope for the best, we should absolutely try and make a success of it. But if it turns out all the world's best independent economic thinkers were right in saying long-term Brexit will fundamentally damage this economy, we have the right as individuals and citizens to have a rethink. So
look, Richard, let's take Innocent Smoothies, which you've been involved with for years. How will that be impacted by the changes? Because I'm thinking, well, the Apple one won't be, because we can grow that in the UK, people might think. You know, why does it make a difference? So we export our apple juice to Switzerland. Switzerland put on an import tax on apple juice, 40%. So that's because of not being in EU.
Exactly. So they have the right. So they have put in a protectionist barrier. So it is just a simple fact. This is definitely a fact, mate, that the apple juice is 40% extra in Switzerland than in this country, so for Tim, the same amount of juice.
You can't get away from that, can you?
So once these tariffs are set up with all the individual countries, I think we're going to be facing more of these.
He's wrong. The EU is about 6 or 7% of the world's population. It puts up a lot of tariff barriers against the rest of the world. And we buy our wine from Australia, New Zealand, South America, and pay a tariff on it. And when we get out of the EU, Australia said it wants to do a deal, and the tariffs will go.
That tariff is reasonable now because Australia knows we have an option of buying from the EU. If we don't have an option, if we don't have those deals in place, what's to stop them putting everything sky high?
Well, we put the tariffs, at the moment it's the EU that puts the tariff on imports of wine. If Britain chooses not to put tariffs on wine with Australia and does a free trade deal, there's no free trade deal with America, India, China, now with the EU, prices will go down. So we've got the whole of the rest of the world to trade with.
And now, it's just an unfortunate reality, or maybe it's a geographical fact. We're an island. We import the majority of our food because we don't have enough land here to grow it. Also another geographical fact. And most of that comes from Europe. You speak to any supermarket chain, they'll say their supply chain is mainly sourcing from Europe. That's because there
are tariffs outside
No, mate,
Europe.
It's because that's where the food's grown and because it's close to, and we can
drive lots of other countries. South
I love
America,
Australia. I love
Canada.
Australia. I love Australian wine, but it is 24 hours on a boat away, whereas France is half an hour on a train away.
We sell more wine from we sell virtually no wine from inside the EU. It's not an economically successful area. Look what it's done to Greece, Portugal. in terrible trouble, no growth in Italy for 15 years. That's why we want to get out. So
it's the biggest market in the world. Since Britain has joined, we've gone from being the worst performing economy in Europe to the best performing economy in Europe. Look, you're right. Australian wine will probably get a bit cheaper. There will be winners and losers, but overall, fundamentally, if exchange rate goes down, which it has, and tariffs goes up, for the average person, the things that they buy in their average shop over time are going to get more expensive.
It's pure speculation.
Okay.
The main thing is
happening already.
pure speculation.
If you keep talking, they'll probably go up while we're sitting here. And we would love to keep talking. Sadly, we are out of time. We really appreciate you both coming in and sharing.
Thank you. The £350 million a week we send to the EU, which we will no longer send to the EU, can you guarantee that's going to go to the NHS?
No, I can't, and I would never have made that claim. That was one of the mistakes I think that the Leave campaign made.
Hang on a moment, that was one of your adverts.
Well, it wasn't one of my adverts, I can assure you.
Well, that was one of the Leave campaign's
it was.
adverts.